That's what we could see. Hi everyone, welcome to Officernaughty's UK Talk. Sorry, it took a bit longer to start. Setting up streams is not one of my fortes, and neither is management with our recent results at MnM. So hopefully I can find some success here. On tonight we have Ferndog, Sacco, Dom Sacco, and Smeagol. Ferndog, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell everyone a bit about you if they don't know you.
Yeah, I've been a coach in the scene for forever. We'll call it that. Been around the block a lot. Been a lot of different teams, a lot of different players. Worked under a lot of different orgs, and I mean, we're not going to talk about it too much, but I am going into a new role of player agency for 2021. So a new step for me for sure.
Amazing. What about you, Dom? How do people know you?
Yeah, I'm the founder and editor of Esports News UK. I write about UK League of Legends, and I've worked at the British Esports Association running tournaments in schools and colleges the past few years. And I'm going to be transitioning from the end of this month to doing Esports News UK full time, and hoping to set up a consultancy soon as well to help brands get into esports.
Amazing. A full-time esports dream. That's what everyone pursues. Smeagol, can you introduce yourself as well?
Basically the same as Fern. Been bounced around a lot of teams, coaching for 4 to 5 years. Transitioning into a slightly new role as well. We all seem to be transitioning on this panel. But
Okay.
yeah, pretty excited for the show, boys.
Brilliant. Smeagol, audio a little low. I'll try and turn him up. Thank you for
That's
the feedback. Chins.
fabulous.
Okay, amazing. Get rid of that. Nice. So basically, guys, what our plan is for the stream today is we're going to have about 3 talking points. I will be looking at the chat the whole time. So obviously, if you want to input anything into the things that we're talking about, just write it in chat, and I will try and remember. If you at me, if you've got like a question, we might be able to do some questions at the end if they're like UK specific or even person specific. If you want to ask these guys anything, then yeah, just add me in the chat and I'll try and remember, but you might have to remember it and repost it at the end. Hopefully, if I click this button, the first talking point will end up at the top, which it has. Okay. Yeah, nice. So the first talking point we're going to talk about is basically the UKEL, the UKLC, the NLC. Is it fair? Does it work? We're focusing on like obviously you can progress. Technically, the dream is you can progress all the way from UKEL to NLC if you and your team are good enough. But is that really the case? And are the best players getting picked up in the respective regions? I'll start off with you, Fern. What do you think overall for this?
I like the different tier system. If you're talking about for players entering the scene, I think it's good. And the reason I say that is because lowering the floor or the entrance level for playing competitively is always broadening the player pool, or should always be broadening the player pool that you are attracting to play the game, right? Because obviously the higher up, like if you're talking like challenger is the only entrance level or something, you're really cutting the players very fine. Obviously, if you go down to UKL level, there's players who don't even really have any aspirations, perhaps, of going pro. They just like playing the game. They're just really good. Like they're just I don't know, mid diamond players, and these players now have a point in which they can enter and play competitively with like-minded people. And I think there is then, because the entrance level is lower, there is a smoother transition from stuff like the Newell, stuff like NSE, stuff like kind of any outside of like the pro leagues, or we'll call them pro leagues, obviously like semi-pro leagues of these levels. There is a smoother transition if the entrance level is nearer to where people come from before they get into that, whether that's solo queue, whether that's like stuff like Newell League, stuff like university, school, college leagues, any of these stuff that Dom has done a lot of work on. Any of those, if there's a smooth transition to where the big amount of players are to these leagues, I think the system is good for attracting new talent. In terms of players going through the ranks from like UKL to NLC, we haven't really seen that so much yet, but equally this is a fairly new system, right? Like we only really had the UKLC and then like UKL, and there wasn't much of a connection. I think where it fails it currently is that the connection between the leagues isn't brilliant, and I think UKLC actually having the same person kind of have a lot of input on the UKLC and the UKL is good, and that's Alex Winton or Synergy. They've just appointed that, so that's a good step. but I think there's definitely currently a lack of progression from at least the UK players who play in UKL. They normally like playing UKL for a bit and then seem to either disappear off the face of the earth or get replaced when they go to a higher league. And that needs to be smoothened out by, I guess, the progress that the players make. So it's a little bit on them, but I'm sure there's other stuff we could do about it too.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the hardest barriers to entry into the UK scene is coming from outside of it into UKL. So, so your college, your schools, your university players coming into UKL, and then I also think, like you said, when you're going from like UKEL to UKLC, a lot of the same players get picked up, and not a lot of newer players are given a shot. Do you agree with this as well, Smeagol?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think there's more player progression from UKLC to NLC, UKEL to UKLC, not as much. But I think that comes down to a lot of people in UKEL. It's like, students, Diamond 2 players, maybe people who don't want to go full time in the game, so they don't really put in the time. I think it also comes down to a lot of the UKEL orgs maybe don't have the funding to um, provide these up and coming players with staff who can help them develop. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it works. I don't think it's as flawless as it could be, but yeah, I think it's as Josh said, it's fairly new. I think it's definitely got potential.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know, like, I was going to come to you, Dom, about this bit about the schools and colleges. I don't know how much you know about university scenes. You don't have to talk about that, but schools and colleges at all. Like, I know that they play League of Legends, and I know that the streams for that are actually quite popular because I've tuned into a couple of them. For what I thought it would be when I was at school or something, like there was nothing like that at all. Do you think that these guys even know that the UKEL, UKLC, NLC exists? Do you think they even talk about it? Do you think, like, yeah, anything about it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I've done a few streams at the British Esports Association over the years. Shout out to Elliot, who does all the stream production there and hosts some streams as well. And I've tried to mention there's a whole network, UKEL, where we've interviewed people, League of Legends people. One of the former finalists at the British Esports Championships, Robert Catley, I think his name is, Two Necks. I've interviewed him on stream. I've interviewed the women's null champions, Elisabetta from Derby Uni, and I always try and mention that. And she said, because I asked her as well, I said, do you, could you end up in the UKEL or the UK? Or do you follow it? And she said, I don't really follow it, but it could be something for the future. So it all ties into what I've been banging on about the past few years, is getting more and more people watching these tournaments. And so some are aware, Alex, some of the school kids and the college students, and the standards can be surprisingly good. You have a few diamond players in there. It's a lot of golds and plats, but there's a few diamonds in there that have good promise. And I'll just say on the tiered system as well, like UKEL, UKLC, NLC. I hadn't thought of this really until you guys have been talking about it now, but I love the setup we've got. And when it was announced that UKEL would be progressing to the mid-tier UKLC, I loved that. But now thinking about it, is it too good? Are we spreading ourselves a bit too thinly? Because that's a lot of tiers, isn't it? In amateur League of Legends and grassroots League of Legends, you've got schools, colleges, university, UKEL, UKLC, NLC, and then EU Masters. I mean, do we need that whole thing?
I think though that on that, these players that we're filling those teams with would still play League of Legends if those tiers weren't there. They would just not be on teams they play casually. And I think we should encourage more people to go from casual to playing in a team, playing competitively, playing. So, and I think this system does do that. So yeah, I mean maybe, but I don't think having more. Personally, I don't think having more teams to be able to join spreads us any thinner than what we can't have. We would just basically cut off the bottom and be left with the top if we didn't have these tiers, I guess.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, actually, viewers watching the different tournaments.
Yeah,
because
okay.
you've got all these different tournaments. The viewers are spread thinly. Are they going to watch all the tiers, or is it wishful thinking
Yeah, I
from
didn't even
me?
think of that either. I think, yeah, there's so many things to watch, and especially when our main language is obviously English, and the LEC is in English as well. So if you're like a fan, like even if you're like a fan of a football team, you're not gonna watch like Premier League Div 1, Div 2, like every week, are you? You're not gonna have enough time to watch that. You're probably just gonna
No,
prioritize one, which most of the times is LEC. Yeah, go on, Fern.
I was just gonna say, people don't always like if you're comparing this to football, people don't what if you're a fan of, I don't know, whatever team, Man United, we'll say. If you're a fan of Man United, you don't necessarily watch every Premier League game, right? You watch you follow your team, and maybe you're a fan of Man United and you live in, I don't know, Cheltenham, but so you support Cheltenham because they're your local team, and Man United because they're your like Premier League club that you grew up supporting because they're actually good. So there's a world in which you can have like a local team that your friends play in, right? A UKL, some of your university mates or whatever play in this UKEL team, and actually you just want to support them because it's your mate.
Yeah.
And then there's the UKL, then there's an NLC team that you actually really like. So you think they're good. They've kind of they've attracted you in with their whatever, their branding, their image, some of the players you like, whatever. You think this player's really cool, really good. They stream a lot. You follow their stream. I don't know, whatever the reason is. You can. I don't think you have to like watch all the NLC, all the UKLC, all the UKL to be a follower of UK League of Legends scene. But
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, right? Football and league.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely, I agree. But it's just like some people only have limited time, is what I was going towards. And if you're going to
Yeah.
focus on anything, why wouldn't you not just focus on the best LEC and you would just ignore that UK exists? I see like Lorks mentioned in chat, like there's a few new players that go to UKLC. I don't know about you guys, but I do think in the past year, so the past like 2 splits, I feel like Newell there's been a lot more Newell players in UKL and UKLC. I don't know who's been like the main like pusher of that. Maybe someone like Geomancy or maybe even Synergy, who both were Newell at one point. I don't know, or even the coach, the old Diabolist guy. Then maybe like one of
Yeah.
these guys has been pushing it a lot more, because I know in MnM last split we had Gadunica, who was a Newell player who never played UK before that, only Newell. Envision had Efan, the top laner. Do you guys think that I feel like maybe the gap has been bridged a bit more with uni?
And can I just say on the Newell stuff, they have
Yeah.
a good partnership with Riot Games. They've got some
Or have they?
solid partnership there where they get access to merch, and pre-COVID they've done some good activities at freshers fairs and things like that with lots of merch and encouraging students to sign up, get free RP or free
Yeah.
tokens
But do you
and
think
stuff.
that Riot they're promoting the UKEL and UKLC to them at all, or do you think they're only focusing on the uni league?
Probably just Null, I would assume.
Hmm.
It's hard to say.
I feel like the Null and like UKEL and that aren't really connected because there's no like progression between the two in terms of like leagues and promotion. So I would say probably they only focus on the Null. At least that's what I would assume.
Yeah.
I
Like
think.
I think who was it? Who was in chat said that they like they're hardcore uni fans. Yeah, Scott from I don't know what team he's on now, but he said he studies esports at uni, and there were some die-hard LoL fans that weren't even aware the UKLC existed. These are
Yeah.
players who just do it for uni. Go on, Fern.
I think that's one of the really important things, right? It's not necessarily like a progression, like you win Yule and you get into the UKL or anything like this. For me, it's the fact that people that play League of Legends, like people that are at uni that play League of Legends, people that are colleges that play League of Legends, people that are school that play League. These are like the biggest natural catchment areas for players who go from playing just casually at home, like solo queue, to playing in the team. And because everybody goes through the school system, everybody goes through the college system, lots of people go through the university system, right? And there's like a natural catchment to just turn people from casual players into team players. The ones that are good obviously can progress, but the fact that these players get to the end of their university life or their college life or their school life without even knowing that there's a competitive scene that they can join means that you lose a lot of, like, if there are players that are good, they just drop off, right? They just leave uni and they go onto a job or whatever. They stop playing because actually they really enjoy playing in a team, and now there's no team to play in because they've left uni or whatever. And I think the fact we'll talk about this when we get on to topic 2, but there needs to be better links between wherever we can catch the players who play League of Legends casually to knowing the scene exists. So every single person in the country that plays like Sunday league football or Saturday league football or any kind of football 5-a-side with their friends knows that the Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two in football exists, right? Whether you're ever going to be there or not is a separate question, but that they know what the system is for if you're actually good at the sport or the game you play in.
Yeah.
Can we create a world where everybody in the UK that plays League of Legends knows that actually that they don't necessarily need to be in it or even be part of it, but knows it exists is the first step, right? And that's a bit for me.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I've said for ages, Riot should be doing more to promote the UK scene in the client
Yeah,
and
I was
in
gonna say.
marketing. But if I'm taking a step back now and I'm looking at what's their big products, it's LEC, isn't it? LCS, Worlds, and so on.
Yeah,
Yes, I know they're a big company, right? Riot, small indie company and all that. They're a big company. They have the resources, but they're focused on those big products and then it filters down. So it makes sense that LEC gets the big support and then it filters its way down. And, Division League 1, League 2 in football are still huge with lots of money coming in. Whereas the UKLC level, it's not the same as Division 1, Division 2 yet. But I hear what you're saying, Josh, and I would love more exposure. But I'm trying to look at it realistically as well from Riot, point of view.
I feel what all the org owners or org people should know is from Riot, and this is the only thing that Riot needs to really. I mean, we want them to invest as much as possible, but they need to obviously spend their time and money and efforts on the biggest products, right? I absolutely understand that, but I think that the people that run organizations in the UK should know the player base of the UK, should know how many people play League of Legends in the UK, and then you can start to look at, okay, so there's X thousand players in the UK that play League of Legends, and there's X hundreds that are diamond or X thousands that are in the that are diamond, but we only have like 20 that play League of Legends competitively. So where are these other hundreds of players, and how can we get them involved in perhaps even just trialing for our team, or being involved in the team scene, or even just initially knowing that a scene exists? Because there's some of those hundreds of players that might want to play League of Legends competitively and they just don't know. And I think we need to try and catch those players somehow. And Riot can give you that information on how many X Diamond players there are in the UK, and as a result, that could be used better.
Riot have the the ultimate marketing thing with the client. The client they could do unbelievable amounts with, and as you're just saying, then the fact that they would know every single UK player that's like Diamond Plus, and they should all maybe get like a personalized message on their account saying, "Have you thought about playing competitive?" Like a little Riot notification. If so, go to this link and it will link them to the NLC UKLC website. I know I've saw Jambo earlier saying that he sees Prime League advertisements as much or more than he sees advertisements for his own region, even though he's like UK based. They could literally be advertising the UKLC, the Newell, the ones that are Riot affiliated, so much with the client.
It's just getting players onto the ladder, isn't it? Once they're in a team in the UKL, they all of a sudden by default know all the rest of the teams in the UKL.
Yeah.
Or they all of a sudden by default know that if we were the UKL, we go to this thing called the UKLC. What are the teams in the UKLC? It's just getting them into that ladder from being a casual player, and that's the big thing that we miss, right?
I think for new players, they don't realize that getting into pro is it's not straightforward, but it's kind of simple. You really just hit high elo, you get a Twitter account, you follow lots of teams, and you try and get on something like LoL Pros. Because as much as players say people don't do enough scouting and things like this, so they don't realize who the good players in the UKEL are if they're like a UKLC team. The fact that Elo just speaks like words, it is probably the most valuable source of money you can have in League of Legends, in my opinion. But these newer players who are playing in Newell might not realize that they might be like 150 LP playing in Newell, but if they went on LoL Pros, they would get messages from nearly every UKLC team straight away, and it's that
LoL
simple.
Pros is a really good point. As someone who works on it with you, obviously, Alex, I get numerous DMs every day from people, even in mid to high diamond, asking to join the site. And I mean, unfortunately, the entry requirements to be on the site are significantly higher now. So LoL Pros probably isn't able to help in that regard. But yeah, having a site like LoL Pros, which could cater to the lower diamond players, to fill up the player count and to identify players to see, where they're from, could definitely help to push our player numbers in the UK.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, go on, Fern.
Sorry, I was going to say even something that is simple, and I don't know what the kind of reason why this wouldn't happen, but there's probably a reason why I'm not thinking of why it wouldn't. But even something as simple as on the ladder, putting Riot on the, if you go on the client and you go on the ladder, even just putting the national where that person's from next to the account name, right?
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you can just scroll through and you see, oh, that guy's 500 LP and he's from the UK. I've never even heard of him. Why have I not heard of him? like coaches in the scene or people that are picking up talent in the scene, people that do recruitment for teams in the UK, should not ever be in a point where like a player hits like master or something and no one's ever heard of him. That shouldn't happen. That's like a footballer being better than a lot of the players in the Premier League, and all of he's never been heard of. It's really like alien that would be the case. You know what I mean?
It can happen a lot in lower leagues, though. Vardy was a nobody
Yeah, no,
for
true.
years and years and years, and someone went, "He's pretty good," and now he's a Premier League winner.
I just think we should minimize that wherever possible, and everything that we can do to minimize players getting good while not ever being known about should be like. Obviously, there's people that just don't want to play. Like they don't want to invest time into playing League of Legends, right? As an actual like career or even a hobby. It's too much time for them to invest. That's absolutely fine, but they should have at least been considered, and also they have considered it themselves, not just they didn't know about it, so they missed out. You know what I mean?
Can I just say as well before we move on, because I know you want to move on, Alex, look beyond the client as well, because one thing I love that Riot did in NLC was they brought in guest casters. Froscurin and a few others came into the NLC. That's good. What I'd like to see is little ads. You know, when there's the 10-minute countdown timer on the LEC, play a video looking at the lower tiers and say when the matches are on, because you've got 200,000, 300,000 people watching that. That makes them more aware. For me, that makes sense, and it supports their grassroots scene. So it's a win-win if they'd done that.
They've done that with other regions. Okay, I will. I have one more point, but I'm going to say what Orc said while I'm getting the last point ready, which is if we added people's nationalities that freely, would it enable more abuse depending on where they're from? Like I know there's a lot of memes, but like Turkish players on EU West obviously get abused probably a lot more than any other country. Do you think like having people like if you had a UK player who's in high-elo, no one heard of them, people would just scream Brexit at them the whole time? What do you think?
Give them the option. Give them the option to hide their flag, and then
if you do it optional.
I also think that I mean we were saying this before the game even before the stream even started, Alex. But like, it is just team chat a thing of the past. You know what I mean? It's so lucky. What's the point? Most pros now just turn it off, or people that don't want to be behavior checked or whatever just remove it anyway. So why should people just be able to like? You're afraid of putting your region. Like where you play, where you come from, you're afraid of putting that on, and you should be afraid of that because someone's going to abuse you. We should actually just remove the abuse and not remove you telling people where you're from. You know what I mean? I think actually just remove the way in which people abuse each other in League of Legends, rather than the ability to actually tell people that you're an English player or a Spanish player or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, but the final thing I was going to say, which you guys can have a talk about, I think, is like we're saying that there could be a UK list. I don't want to promote this because this is my own thing, but I think it's pretty good. Is the UK low-end houses? I do believe is the biggest Discord for like Diamond Plus UK players that there is, like without a doubt, that has some sort of competitiveness. This off season's probably not been its best because we were all caught off guard by the UK, the NLC Full Cup and stuff, and all the admin that are working there were part of NLC full teams. But people like Pivotless have done a lot to like help out. Do you think that a Discord like that should try and have like a list of every single player that's in it available, and the fact that they're a UK player?
Their status, where like what
It's something I've
they've
never thought
reached,
about.
stuff like this. Yeah, they should. They should for sure.
I agree.
There'd be no downside, right?
Yeah, there wouldn't be. Go on,
you know, after this, let's email Riot. Let's not just have this as a talking shop. Let's actually get bullet points over, and I'll email my key PR contacts and things at Riot and say, look, we've just had this chat show. Here's some positive ways that you could boost like the amateur scene in the UK. What do you think? You might as well. You don't get if you don't ask, you don't get. So I'm actually going to do that.
There has to be actionable things that we take from stuff like this to actually turn into points. So we said that again before the show started. We have to take. There's been a million shows like this, right, over the years, where people have discussed points, and some of them very, very good points that are very, very useful. But the actionable kind of things never occurred post the chat, and as a result, they never go anywhere. So for sure, I honestly believe, and I've been. I mean, maybe I'm actually wrong, or maybe I just haven't delved enough into the pool. But I honestly believe that this is currently the worst state I've seen the UK scene in for bringing players through that are actually that I believe can go to a level that can potentially be an LEC player in the future if they have the right guidance. Like I think the most recent player, I mean, there's probably more. I'm just trying to think. Was it Deadly? It is Deadly the most recent like breakthrough UK player that has like LEC, like probable LEC potential.
Probably.
I'm just trying to think because
Yeah.
that's a long time ago if that was right.
'Cause it
Like
would be someone like
we had Inax.
Yeah.
Inax went.
yeah, I mean similar
Yeah.
time, right? Like, I guess.
Yeah, it could be. Like, there's a lot of players that could have made it, like Shikari, for example, but now he's took like a step back, I think, from competitive. Like he had LEC
Yeah,
potential.
it's a shame. That guy's so good.
Yeah, it's a shame. But like I agree, like I would say someone like maybe Soft, but then again, Soft didn't find like a high enough NLC team this split, so he's again gonna maybe go under the
I have
radar.
to go back down.
being in
There's
UK
players
too.
for sure that I think can, but like this used to be quite common that there was like at least 2 or 3, maybe up to 5 players in the UK that were like, oh, this player looks really good, and actually they could go on to be picked up by a different region or picked up by an academy team or whatever. Yeah, maybe Matt, stuff like this. But these players are now like, I mean, I played in UK finals against these players in like 2017 and stuff. You know, we're now in 2021, and there's no more players that have come through.
Yeah,
so
okay.
like that. To that level anyway, where they're really competing with the top end of their own ERL even.
Yeah.
Most of our ERL finals now are filled with players that are not from the UK anymore, or players that are from the UK but have been in the final of the ERL for the past few years but never actually moved further.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to topic point number 2 because I think it will go in well to what we're talking about now. Hopefully this transition goes well. Bang, nice. So, topic point number 2 is why is there such little UK talent coming through compared to other regions? I will say, chat, we're not focusing on other regions specifically. It's just to make the question make sense. Like, for example, in Germany, you have like these regions, and like if you're like a good player, getting into Prime Div 1 is like massive. And there's lots of new good players, and you get a lot of exposure. Whereas in the UK, if you're a new good player, like you could be like 300 LP still stuck in UKEL. Why does that happen?
Yeah.
Do you want to start with? We can start with Smeagol this time.
Oh man, I think you have to kind of compare it to other regions a little bit. Like for example, if you look at Germany, as you said, the whole Prime League system, there's like 4, 5 divisions where you can start from, and you can work your way all the way up from like 4th or 5th div all the way up to pro div. So I think like from that example, there's like a clear progression and there's a clear path. And if you pop up in 4th div, maybe you get offers for 3rd div, and then vice versa, and that's kind of how you can climb. And then I think it goes the other way as well for the amount of the amount of people we actually have playing from the UK versus other countries. What's it called? What's the word? Population. Like there's obviously going to be bigger population in the likes of Spain and Germany versus the UK. So I think that's also a factor. And then Denmark as well, especially, they really work with the younger generation to push the esports side of things.
Yeah.
I know there was a recent thing with Tricked. I think they partnered with like schools or colleges or something, and they're really trying to push people through. But yeah, I think if we could do that more in the UK, I think British esports are doing something like that, Dom, are they not? Where they're trying to kind of push people in schools and colleges to really pursue league to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's a bit behind closed doors at the moment, but they're open to talking to UK organisations to try and get a bit more support. They've had good links with Excel Esports, like the winners of the championships. The last 2 years have had coaching with Excel. So 2 years ago, before coronavirus, that was great because the winning college team and the winning school team visited Twickenham Stadium and had like a tour and all of that stuff. And that's great because that's like a money can't buy prize for those kids.
For sure.
And that will stick with them for a long time.
The UK have never had anything like Excel, I guess, in the past. Like Fnatic's been our staple UK big league, but they've never. All their teams have always been in Berlin. We've never had a UK team.
That's it. Fnatic's London office, that's still quite new. It only opened 4 years ago, I think. Before then, Fnatic wasn't really regarded as a British org, whereas now it is a little bit. Just on this topic, before I forget, I hope I can put a link in the chat. I thought it was interesting what Kasing said about this, and this shout out to Megalodontus. One of my great writers, he wrote this article. Oh, please refrain from posting links.
My Streamlabs is broken. It won't actually ban you. It just gets a bit aggy.
Okay, no worries. And basically what Kasing said in a recent interview with another journalist, Fernando Cardenetti. I hope I've said that right. He said that the biggest problem in the UK is that teams are more inclined to import.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to find the next UK faker. Everyone's looking for a new player every time, but that's maybe due to UK players not even existing. France, Germany, and Spain have way more players or pro players in general, and I think that's the biggest problem in the UK. Everyone's more inclined to import. Where
Yeah.
are the UK players? That's the question.
Here we go. So
I think
this is I think this will work with what you're about to say, Fern, because Torek said earlier that like a lot of promising rookies are locked in university leagues, but like I don't think that's the case anymore. They having to balance like uni work as well as playing competitive, and they get no support from the government. Whereas we've seen in other Scandinavian countries, I don't know what it's like around Europe, the government give like a lot more financial support to players, like, or just like people going to universities and school, which promotes them to be able to do like pursue their own interests as well as studying. So for example in MnM, like we're trialing players who are UK who can only commit to like a certain amount of hours a week because they have to work in a part-time job, whereas then you have a Danish player who comes to me saying, yeah, the government gives me money so I don't need a part-time job, I can invest way more time for the same money that you're giving me. And it's like, that's a no-brainer. Well, what do you think, Fern?
I've got a couple of points on this topic, really. The first one is a little bit what we spoke about with topic one, which was we need to know exactly what the problem is, right? So we need to know is the problem that just our players are not good enough, or there's not enough players, right? And we don't the general like public don't know that. Only Riot knows that. Only Riot knows how many people play League of Legends exactly in the UK, and how many people are of a certain level. And then we need to know how, like, are there just loads of players that we're missing out on in the catchment of UKL, UKLC, NLC? There's loads of players that we just don't know play in the UK, and they're casual players, and they don't make that transition from playing casually at Master, High Diamond, whatever, to playing in the competitive leagues. Or are just the players not good enough? The other thing that I really want to kind of mention, and I have spoken briefly about like with Kieran and stuff from XL about this quite recently actually, is part of what Kasing was saying, right? A lot of the teams like don't want to go for the UK players or whatever. Every team, apart from the academies, has to win, right? Everybody is desperate to win because they need it to stay in their league. They need it to get their spot. They want to get promoted. They want to not get relegated from the NLC or whatever. They need to win. So they get the best players, regardless of whether you're from the UK, whether you're from anywhere else. The academies currently do this, but they want to win EU Masters. There is an approach that I think academies can take that is more befitting of growing the region, and that is we're going to take the 5 most promising players from our region, and maybe we lose a lot of games. Maybe we finish 6th in the LEC rather than 1st. Maybe we finish 7th in the LEC rather than 1st or 2nd. And actually, do we care that we finish 7th? Does winning the NLC for XL Academy mean very much in terms of, like, they don't care about the prize pool, right? They don't really care about any of that. I think the academies in every region can go one or two ways. They can go a way in which they produce talent that they can either promote or sell to other teams. That's a good business model for making money. Or
Yep.
they can go a route which goes, okay, we're gonna make talent from our region better because we have the infrastructure, we have the system to put that in place. So these best UK players under an academy like Fnatic or XL can be supported. So the stuff we're talking about, like Tarok was talking about, right, where they feel like they've got to juggle like work life with doing a hobby that takes a lot of time and you get very little money from, whatever. They don't need to do that if you're at XL or Fnatic Academy, because you are funded for everything you do. You're provided with a house, you're provided with living, you're provided with food, you're provided with gym membership, you're provided with everything you need as a platform to take your game from I'm a casual player to a pro player. There's 10 spots in the UK with the 2 academy teams if they wanted to get the 10 most promising UK players and not care about winning the NLT or not care about even making it to EU Masters, but actually turning these players into much better than they currently are and doing it for the good of the scene. They're the only 2 teams that don't need to win everything or don't need to win. They choose to win everything because they get the best players, they have the best infrastructure, they have the best everything, and they go on and do their best. They don't need to do that. It could be a win for them to actually take the best UK talent. They've got the scouting capabilities to find that talent. They've got the links with Riot to know that. They've got the reach to schools, to colleges, they can send people around to universities, to schools, and actually even like they can spread the name. They're the only 2 orgs in the UK realistically with a fan base.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that have the most power over linking casual players who are either fans of the LEC or just casual players in general to actually playing competitive, and they have the biggest outreach by a significant mile over everyone else collectively, and they
Yeah.
have the tools to be able to not want to win, so not need to win. So there's a world in which the academies could do that, and XL definitely I've spoken to them, and they're not against that idea. It's just whether that would ever be put in place. But I really do think the academy.
Yeah.
We often treat the academies as like in the NLC. There's like the academies, there's the Nordic teams, and there's the UK teams, but it's not like that. The academies are UK teams,
Yeah.
and that they have a responsibility as much as anyone to make this scene better. And I think they could do way more with the amount of resources that they've got.
Yeah.
That's not to say the other orgs couldn't do that, but they need to win games, right? The other orgs need to try and, like Barrage and MnM, for instance, need to try and stay in the NLC, so they need to do what it takes to stay there.
Yeah.
The academies don't need to.
So
Yeah, go on, Alex.
go
Go on.
I only wanted to say because Astralis is like they came in with their academy, which is full Danish, like a full Danish
Yeah.
academy, lots of rookie players. For me, I think it's this. I don't know if this is bad or not, but I think it's pretty criminal that XL and Fanatics academies now, no, the new ones that are announced, have like literally no UK
Just
up and
one
coming
UK
player.
player, right?
Yeah,
There's
and like
Deadly, and that's it.
yeah, and
between
Deadly's
them.
like known. He's known. Like
Yeah.
that count. He counts as UK brilliant, but like he is like well known, and he tweets pretty much mostly in Spanish because he knows that's where a lot of his engagements and a lot of his fans are. So like like you have like maybe the top UK players I can think of off the top of my head, like Soft, Nolte, Kerberos, these sorts of players like Dragdar.
Resolve have done it, right?
Yeah,
Resolve have
Resolve.
done what XL should be doing, or
But
what Fnatic should be doing to an extent.
yeah, so like why if you were XL or Fnatic, why would you not just take these players? If
Because,
unless like they really want to win. But even
yeah,
then, I'm not saying they wouldn't win with these players. I'm just saying like yeah.
they want to put themselves in a position where Cries doesn't work out, so a Rome can go into the LEC team or whatever, you know, like they want to put themselves in a position where they've got 10 slots for, and this hasn't always been the case, right? The past iterations are different, but the view now, like Niski doesn't work out on Fnatic, Featherven is the safe backup, right? And they've got players that have 2-year contracts or whatever, or several year contracts with maybe 60 to 100k buyouts within those contracts that if someone else wants Featherven, they come and give us money, and that recoups either salary or costs we ever used to actually pay for him. So we make money off Featherven. We make money off a Rome. If someone wants a Rome from XL, they pay a significant buyout. They actually make money. So business model, it makes sense to do that in some regard. But they have enough money, they have enough investment to lose a bit of money on their academies to benefit the good of their scene. And I think there should be more of that
Or
personally.
promoting more, or maybe should they be given a UKLC spot, which they like they're part of the contract with Riot for this UKLC spot is they have to provide, I don't know, manager, coach, 5 players that are UK players.
I think they can just put their this development project in the NLC, and if they get relegated to UKLC, it's fine.
They can't
It's
get
fine for them.
relegated. They're immune.
If they're immune.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Even
then,
more
like,
so,
what does it
yeah,
matter? You know what I mean?
that-
Even then, like, they can't get relegated. You can take the 5 best players without any risk of any failure, apart from maybe you lost a little bit on their salary payments that wouldn't realistically be that much anyway.
Yeah.
People at XL and Fnatic had millions of investment. You're going to spend what, like a grand a month or something on a player, and that's a good UK player to get a grand a month for the most part, outside of like LEC players, or 1,500 quid for a player of the UK. But you're creating a platform for them to grow, because they don't have to do a part-time job or a full-time job, as well as they don't need to do a degree or whatever during that time.
Yeah.
And then you're giving them that platform to grow, and they have the tools to do that. But
I think
whether they choose to do that or not is another thing. Sorry,
go
Dom,
on,
go on.
Dom.
that's all right. Schmiegel made a good point about, you can't get relegated and whatever league that was. For me, like, the lack of progression is difficult. I don't have the answers here because I like the LEC and I like that there are franchise teams in there, but it saddens me that we'll never have a Misfits again. Renegades Banditos, they became Misfits and they went from the UK scene right into the Challenger Series, right into the EU LCS as it was then. And we'll never have that again unless something changes. And what
No.
does a team want to be in the UKLC or the NLC forever? How do they get to the next level? Like, unless they can buy their way in and get lucky that another team drops out of the LEC for whatever reason, it's a shame there's no progression, really.
Team-wise, you don't, right? But it is shown that if you are a good enough player, you do get there and you stay. Alfari, for instance, Max Law, for when he got there, right? They had some awful times at Misfits for sure. I worked with the guy last split. I think he should be back there for sure. But
Yeah.
there's players that if you're good enough, whatever region you're from, you will get there. But we don't produce enough of those players in the UK at present because the system below it, in my eyes, does not work in the way that's actually intended to develop this talent anymore. And I think part of that is players not staying together long enough with a team. Players not like.
But that's the thing, right? You can't have player progression and not so much team progression as well. You see what I mean? Because they think there's a synergy there, isn't there?
Yeah, but players
That's
often
my
leave their
point.
teams to join different teams, right? Like, I mean, that's
yeah,
so.
I mean,
it's
if
the
a player
norm, isn't
pops
it?
off,
We
yeah,
can't change that, I
if a
guess.
player pops off, he's probably going to get an offer from a better team anyway.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I do think that. I think for MnM, for example, like if you think I can only speak for MnM here, not like Barrage or anyone else, but for us, our main focus in the NLC is to like somehow like do really well, get like a playoffs run, and like rob a EU Master spot. Now, if there's still two EU Master spots, which is what a lot of these teams built their rosters on, it's quite like demoralizing, I guess, for NLC teams to be like, shall we invest like a lot of money to probably still come third? And it really like for like an NLC team, it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these teams, like they would have just dropped budgets and thought like if there's only two spots, Fnatic and XL have already got them. The competitiveness kind of just goes down straight away. And I'm really surprised that Riot never never gave the scene
It really ruins the UK. When it was UKLC, it really ruined the scene. The fact that there was two EU Master spots, and it would pretty much always by default go to XL and Fnatic, right? So again, going back to what we spoke about, the Fnatic and XL thing actually being kind of progressive developmental places to give platforms to young aspiring UK players who weren't necessarily the best in the league, would actually make the rest of the NLC go, actually, we can get the EU Master spots now. And then that all of a sudden does open up progression. I think if we have a UK org, say Barrage or MnM, these are the NLC representatives that aren't academies at present. If they were winning EU Masters every split, then we could say, oh, there's a case that actually these teams need to be able to get into the LEC. But they're not even, UK orgs outside of the academies are not even making EU Masters right now. So there's a level of progression that we're not even reaching. So I don't think we need more progression above that for the UK teams personally, but we need to be able to have players going into these teams that are to get into the EU Masters, right? We need to turn UK players into EU Masters quality players, and then in turn turn into LEC level players after that. But I think, I mean, if the academies continue to do what they do, which is pick up either almost LEC ready talent or previously LEC talent that's not there anymore, and just fill their academies with this every split, but equally don't actually do brilliantly at EU Masters for the most part, we end up in a system where you have just the two EU Masters spots. They both go to the academies by default because they spent the most money on talent, and none of that talent is from the UK, and that stifles everything.
Excuse me, Josh. I think your fine riddle went to EU Masters.
They did, and Diabolus did Diabolus did back along, but equally again didn't like with the schedule, with whatever reason, weren't able to do brilliant, right? And we didn't, as a result, get more. We didn't get more spots from it for the NLC. So the investment for everyone apart from the two academy teams is really pointless, right? Because why invest in a scene you can't progress? And you are right about the progression, Dom, because like for MnM, right? We're talking MnM Barrage. These are our UK representatives outside the academies. Why should they put the maximum amount of money that they can put into something to maybe finish 2 places higher, but still not get any further than what they get? Nobody cares about who finishes third in the NLC, do they? Really? Like, people care if you got to EU Masters and you had a good run, great. But if you can't get that, if that's no longer achievable because XL has a Rome who was formerly he went to Worlds last year, and Fnatic has Febervan or whatever. There's just too much of a bigger gulf between the rest of the orgs and the academies. So I think personally that the academy should do more for the scene that they should represent, and that's the whole point of initially Riot putting academies from each LEC team in the regions that they represent, right, to actually represent those regions. So those academies can do more. I know they go out and into schools. I know they have good contacts with the Newell, with NSE and stuff like this, and they try and promote those programs individually and make their face known around those scenes. But I think in their kind of playing staff and in their player development model, they can do much more to make the current crop of players that are from the UK, the best version that we've got, even if that's like 5D1 players, right? Can they make those 5D1 players with their system 5 Grandmaster players? Can they turn them into better players? And they should be able to, right, with the
Yeah.
system. So, and even if they finish 8th in NLC, they can't get relegated. So what does it matter?
Yeah.
Rob makes a good point. Rob the Boomer. I think if that's the Rob I'm thinking, Rob from MnM back in the day. Rob said also there are players in the UK EL and UKLC that don't want to go any higher. And this ties in with a point Shicklin made earlier. He said, I've found so many UK Diamond Plus players over the past couple of months, and loads of them just don't care about esports and don't want to compete. You know, to get to that next level, I've watched that XL Esports documentary. It's hard, isn't it? It's fierce.
Yeah.
You know, some players don't want that stress. They just want to do it as a hobby. Look at Larson. He's in the LEC now, but for, you know, the first, 2-3 years of his amateur career, he didn't want to go to the next level because he wanted to get his studies done first. And you don't know what players are going through. So that's something to bear in mind. That might put off a few players.
Yeah, what I will say is that if you're a UK talent, you might want to talk about this one. If you're a UK talent and you're looking up to the top, and you look the top, so the NLC is the top, and you're like, yeah, I'm like Master 50 LP. Well, what's gonna happen? You see Riddle with the first team that were like non-academy, who just like put loads of money in. They've got a really good roster. Like it was so much hype, and then they had to pay like 1,000 games in 4 days. And it was just like
17.
brilliant. Yeah, how like look at that reward. And then and then you're like an up and coming UK player, and you see, oh, a rugby club is paired up with like a UK organization. That's amazing for the scene. Like this is gonna bring in so much, and then scam. It's like not by the rugby club, but by the org they teamed up with. And it's like if you're like a UK talent and you're like a rising talent, and you think, oh, I really want to invest more time. When you're looking at the top and you're looking at the role models, it just all seems doom and gloom. Do you guys think that as well?
I mean, I see it, right? And I see how that can be seen. But I just think to myself, when I was a volunteer coach for a long time, right? Doing like very little for very much for very little money, very little reward. But all I cared about was being good. Like I didn't care like really about the money at that point. And to be honest, the job got worse as more money came for me, and I was more happy and just enjoyed it more by doing my thing and getting better at what I was doing. And my reward came from like being better at me realizing I was a better coach this split than last split, and so on and so forth, and all the way through. And I didn't really care about the not being able to progress is a big issue, I think. So if you're an NLC like coach or a player and you feel like you're constantly there and you can't make EU Masters ever because while you stay in this league you can't make EU Masters ever because unless you get picked up by one of the academies you can't get in there. But I think the getting better bit should be the like why players want to stay in the scene, why players want to go further is because just for their own self motivation, because without that you can't make the top anywhere. You have to be self-driven, you have to be want to be the best, you want to do it for yourself. And I think if you're like a UKL player looking at like Munster and saying like, oh god, look what happened to them, we shouldn't play League of Legends here or whatever, I think perhaps you're in it for the wrong reasons anyway. But I think I don't know, me looking back, I think for me it was all about self-motivation. I think more people should be, if they want to be good, then do that. But if you want it as a hobby, maintain it as a hobby.
Yeah.
Do you guys think the merger between UK and Nordics stifled the kind of UK growth? Because I think with the huge player base that came from the Nordic region, there's so many quote unquote better Nordic players.
Yeah, I think
which can kind of take the spots away from UK players.
I think when it was just UK, what did we have that's like different? We had the same amount of EU Masters spots, the same amount of academy teams.
No, but I mean EU Master spots aside, just looking at the actual player count, like when it was just UKLC, I think there was more opportunity for UK players to kind of shine.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because at MnM, like we now have like no UK players in our starting lineup last split, and like I guess spoilers, we don't have any again this split. So it's like as soon as like it comes out of it, it's what I mentioned earlier. It's the fact that Nordic players have a lot more free time to give, whereas the UK players that we would want on MnM are either too expensive for our budget, which is not a bad thing. It's just like our budget, we just don't have the money for them, or like are just not good enough in like mine and the coach's opinion. So I think when it was UK, you were forced to take those 3 UK players. It made it a lot more competitive. But then again, we saw a lot of recycled talent. So now it's NLC.
I feel like
less recyclable.
The issue that we had in UKLC was that there was never. I mean, Diabolus did it in the very first split, but outside of that, there was never going to be a team that competed with the academy teams in just the UKLC, right? Whereas the NLC brought that gap closer. Realistically, rosters on paper, yes, things didn't work out, but Riddle was one and Munster was another that could have easily competed with the level of talent, level of ability that the academy teams had last split. Riddle did, Munster unfortunately didn't, but whatever. There's a lot of external circumstances why perhaps that wasn't the case. But point being is that I liked the fact that you could bring teams to a closer level to the academy teams so that the league is actually competitive. It's still not a little bit because perhaps the academies just upped their like spending on the academies even more. But I really I like the fact that there was a merger, and I like the fact that it gives more tiers. But perhaps some UK players now don't get the spotlight that they would have got just like for being the third best team in the UK or whatever.
Yeah, and something else that you just mentioned there, the Diabolus thing. Like you had a team that had a lot of promise when Diabolus came in. They were like really loud, outspoken. They had loads of money. You thought, yeah, these guys are just gonna. They know they've been around for a long time. They said that in their like introduction meeting. They've like watched the UKC and they know what they're gonna do. They got like some pretty good players. They got a gaming house, and then as soon as an organization has to write a tweet like a twit longer, as soon as they have to write a twit longer about a situation, then it's doomed. It's like it's just so doomed, and people just saw that and they saw these guys are aggressive. They posted some really like dodgy tweets, like the Snowdon Mountain one was a banger, for example, where they told an organization that they should like one-way ticket it to that place in, is it Switzerland, the euthanization
Yeah.
place. So you see these things
Yeah.
happen where the teams are bringing money, and it's such a shame. And you think that they probably invested the most money, along with like Phelan had a big money opportunity, and both these teams have just thwarted it. But when you have organizations in the Nordics, for example, Riddle, they had a load of money when Smeagol was there. They invested it well. They had a insane roster that went straight EUM, and they
Yeah, I
invested a
mean,
lot
for me,
better.
is it like it's well as in because they did good, but it's still like it's a 3-month job. You know what I mean? It's not sustainable for in that sense. Like, I think the fact that there's nothing more long term than like, yeah, we can get 5 players who are really good together for one split and they do the best they can. I mean, you're against academies that have 2-year contracts and are there building on something for quite a significant period of time, right? It's really like tough competition for anyone. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll move on to the last point of topic number 2, with something that Nolte said, and Dom's also shown me a quote from Rifty as well. That Nolte said he doesn't think the academies will change the way they operate. The only way for UK players to progress is to move to another region and become established in that region. Rifty also added to that, saying, "I've said this for years. If you're UK and you want to go pro, don't play in the UK scene." I'll give this to you, Smeagol, because you're someone who hasn't really coached in the UK scene for a good reason, I would say. Probably mainly because
Yeah.
you've seen other regions offer bigger
Uh,
opportunities for you to work with better players and for more money. What do you think?
um, I mean, I think the UK was in a really weird spot when I left. Obviously, I was only a manager back then, um, and it was kind of a weird level. And I decided to go abroad just because I thought, money aside, I thought the level was better. There was terms for more progression. You know, it was a region in which I could go to international events, potentially qualify for MSI and Worlds. So that was obviously more promising from my point of view. But I mean, I also feel like the only reason I came back was because of, I think Josh said it earlier, the NLC merger, the chance to actually do something with the UK region. There's a bigger player base. Rosters are way more competitive. Orgs in general, I think majority of the orgs selected were quite promising. Especially, obviously, what happened with Munster was unfortunate, but seeing the rugby club come in, I think that was a really good shout.
Yeah, massive.
Nordavind as well. I've heard they've got pretty good backing.
Mm.
So yeah, it was pretty promising, and I think in general the inaugural season of the NLC had some pretty big names like um, Max Lohiva, Achu, Senkuk, Stocksy. I think you've got so many good players outside of the academies. It was something that made me want to come back and compete in my home region. Um, but when I saw the state of it, you know, when I first started my coaching career 3 to 4 years ago, um, I couldn't get out fast enough because it was just a mess. There was no money. It was so top heavy. Frankly, it was a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my take on it, really.
I like
I
that.
think
Go on, Fern.
on the Naughty point where he says, pretty sure academies won't change the way they operate. The only way for UK players to progress is another region. I mean, I think what he really means is that the only way for players to get good enough to be in these top teams is to move to another region, because if they're good enough, they get into a team, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter who you are. If you are good enough to be an LEC player, an LEC team wants you. If you're good enough to be an academy player, an academy team wants you. The only way you are not is if you are known to be like publicly toxic or to be like damaging on the brand in any way, or really notoriously hard to work with. I think an issue is that in League of Legends in general, not even just in the UK, but it is that the form of how good a player is or not, how good a coach is or not, one of the biggest, most reliable sources that the kind of League of Legends system has is Twitter. Like that's like that's like me using Wikipedia to find like to pick up your new football team. You know what I mean? Like, and anybody can just edit anything and write anything that they want, and that is proof. You know what I mean? And what it ends up having is that you end up like a player that did something 4 years ago, stuck with them for 4 years, and that's who they are. That they only played assassins 3 years ago, so they only play assassins because nobody actually knows any different. Like the people that know any different don't haven't really taken into the Twitter discussion, and other people just keep saying, "Oh, isn't he only an assassin player? Or isn't he only a Talon one trick? Or isn't he whatever the term is?" And these like labels stick with people for a very long time, even when that person goes on to progress or goes on to change or goes on to whatever. And like people still believe that don't know any different.
Yeah.
But I really do think that it's not necessary. Like there has to be done by more players, and with orgs supporting them to get to the level of which they are academy or EU masters or LEC players. Because we're just like there are UK players that have gone there, and that's because they were good enough, right? And I think that there's players that are not being produced at that level right now. And is that just a lack of players being good enough, putting the grind in, wanting to commit to League of Legends in the UK, whatever? Or is that a lack of support from orgs? I mean, it's probably a collection of both in lots of different ways. But is that a lack of orgs are not turning players who are currently at the level they're at into better players right now?
Yeah, I agree. Just and viewership. Like you go to Germany, you play in Prime League, you're playing in front of like 10, 15k straight up. So you're playing against all these really known players with massive fan bases, and we just don't have players like that in the UK. You think that the UK player with the biggest fan base at one point was probably Groscore. So
do you think though that
that's
players like there's any players that have ever played in the UK that were really good enough but just weren't known about by LEC teams or academies, and that's why they didn't get picked up? I can't remember ever a player being who I thought was like this player is good enough to be LEC, or this player is good enough to be in an academy team, but the reason they're not being picked up is because they're in like a Barrage or an MnM or whatever, and as a result they're not being seen by fans.
we might
You
not
know
know.
what I mean?
Maybe we
I
might
think
not
there's
know.
I think there's a couple, like very select few, which maybe didn't get picked up for external reasons. Like I think there's a really good mid laner. His name's Random. Ironic, right?
Yeah.
But this guy couldn't find a team because he was tied into like university, for example.
Right.
And he was hard stuck in his region because of university.
Yeah.
I
So
just
think
don't feel like the UK viewership has ever stopped a player
Oh
getting
no,
to the
the view.
getting
I,
to getting to
yeah,
where
yeah.
they need to get to. You know what I
No.
mean? Just because we're playing in a region with not very much viewership, I don't think that's ever been a case of because we're playing in front of 100 people rather than 10,000 people. That's why I'm not getting to the LEC, or that's why I'm not getting to the academies, because I don't think that's true personally.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I
think
think if you're in UK and you pop off, chances are you're going to go to EU Masters
Yeah,
and get
yeah.
seen anyway.
it's ELO, isn't it?
So
At the end of the day, it's ELO. A lot of these orgs, even now, ELO. If you're like a newer player, you played in like the UK, for example. Wait, is the Mad Lions Academy roster announced? I don't want to get in trouble here. What have you confirmed this?
Yeah, so yeah, I
Yeah, it
mean,
is announced. Yeah, so
yeah,
Alex, for example, played in UK
yeah,
Div 2. Div 2.
yeah.
Hit like
Went to Mad
rank
Lions Academy.
4. Yeah, rank 4. And there's no way that he got from there from what they've seen of his Talia performance. In my opinion, maybe. Maybe he did. Maybe they thought. Maybe
Ah,
they
this
did
guy
it.
was really insane.
Yeah, maybe they thought he did it like scouting. But the fact that the guy hit like rank 4 on a
Yeah.
US ladder, they were like, yes, this guy, rank 4 in US ladder, played well in his region. Let's give him a shot.
So
And I
like
lost.
they
I
would have
lost.
seen that, right? And then they would have gone and watched the games
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then gone, yeah, actually this backs up what Izilo says about him.
Yeah, so Elo for me is such a massive breakthrough. Like, yeah, and I'll finish it with this before we go on to topic number 3. Chibs, UK mid laner, was a rising star, and now he's just a full-time e-boy with 1 million followers on TikTok. That's a fallen soldier to the esports scene. He could have done it. So that's a sad one.
1 million.
Yeah, he's got like
Yeah.
1 million followers on TikTok now. He
Yeah,
just
yeah.
more money from that.
Wow, that's madness. Well, it's like, but that happens at all levels, right? If you look at I'm a Cutie Pie, he left Dignitas because he was making so much more money from streaming.
Yeah.
And just before we move on quickly as well, an observation I've made is it seems that players that move to the Spanish scene, they seem to have a lot more fun and they're a lot more active on Twitter, and the fans are more engaged
In-house
with
and
them and
stuff.
things like that. It seems
They're
to be
supported by the organization enough to actually be able to do it full time and not have to juggle esports with a full time home life, a full time work, as well as getting back home to scrim every day. So
Yeah.
that's the step that we don't have in the UK so much, is that there are not full time opportunities to play League of Legends in the UK outside of the academies. And
Yeah.
Munster was something that was providing that, and that's a real sad part as to why the Munster Phelan thing didn't work, because that was another 5 spots in which 5 more players can now play full time in the UK. And the more of them you have, the more of a platform there is for the progression of UK players, for sure. But the 10 spots that we do have that are full time, as we said lots of times through this show, or I've said a lot of times through this show now, the 10 spots that are full time that you can play League of Legends full time for a UK org are currently all 9 of the 10 are occupied by players that aren't English. And that
Yeah.
makes it hard for
and
UK players to progress.
Spain has the fans, right? People said, "Oh, what if we get LVP to do the UK? That looks so promising." It didn't really work out in the long run, But Spain have got the
Shocker.
fans, and I want more UK fans. They're here. The World's quarterfinals, the LCS stuff in London, they all turned up. It all sold out. Can we get them interested
the
in these lower leagues?
Get the UKLC advertised on bus stops. That's it. That'll be
Yeah.
the dream. I'm surprised they just don't do stuff like that. It's mind-boggling, but whatever. Maybe I know nothing.
I mean, again, this is going to carry
Yeah,
on the topic.
Yeah, it's fine. We can go for it.
What I was going to say is their UK fans should know who their, like, I think each UK team should have a place of registration or whatever, like not their actual house, right? But like what city are they affiliated to? Because if there are fans in the UK of League of Legends, why not have a local team that you support, right? Or a team that you like, not even you support, but there's a team in your city, or there's a team, whatever. And um, just as an example, one of the well-known esports bars came to me last week, I think it was, saying they've got a little bit of money. They're struggled just due to Corona, and they'd have much more money, but they want to invest in something in the UK League of Legends scene to support grassroots. And what could it be? And what I suggested was, in a post-Corona world, what if there was a UK like FA Cup of League of Legends, where the teams are invited from UKL, UKLC, and the UK teams from NLC, and they all compete with the finals held, or at least the semi-finals and the finals held at their bar, where local people to that bar can go down and they actually see people, not
Yeah.
just a name behind a screen. But if you're in that city and there's an event on and you like League of Legends, why not go down? Maybe maybe a ticket's like £2 or something,
Yeah.
but you actually get to meet people who play League of Legends properly. And there's belong arenas all over the country now. This could happen everywhere. You know what I mean? Like you could have you could see your local team and actually get to know the people. And when you get to know the people, there becomes a little bit more of a personal attachment than just an LEC team on a screen that you'll never meet, you'll never see, you'll never have anything to do with other than just follow on the stream. But actually, I know his real name, not just that he's called Sof or whatever. I actually know him. I met him down the bar. He's a well cool guy.
It
I'm going to
make a
watch
big
him on the
difference.
stream.
Yeah, I do agree. I
That
think
can happen.
the fact that the fact that you see like the regions that we're trying to be like a Germany, France, Spain, that's where we ideally want to be. The fact that we're nowhere near them is that they have a lot more people. Like it's more like people. Like you can see all their players. They're like 90% of them are in gaming houses. They have like live streams where where the regular games are in like an actual studio and stuff. And they do a lot more segments on their streams that are like focused on the people and on there so like people can become fans of them. I've said this before ages ago when I wrote a tweet longer about what I thought the problems were in the UK scene, and I said if everything in an ideal world, if everything was offline. I think that's the right one. Everything was in like little studios
Yeah.
around the country. You have like the one that ESL use. There must be one up north somewhere. There'll be
There's
one in
long arenas
London.
in like every city, right? Like,
Yeah,
why couldn't we
Red Bull
even have like
Studios and stuff.
UKEL games or UKLC games where there's 10 UK players in those two teams against each other? Why
Yeah.
couldn't they compete in a belong arena against each other?
Yeah, this
with
is what I'm
with
saying.
local people going to see that.
I think that would be massive, but that's like a talk for. I think that we could probably do a whole section on that. I'm going to move on to
Yeah, for
topic
sure.
number 3. This is our plan for everyone watching. We maybe will do this for like 15, 20 minutes max. 15 minutes on this, and then we will leave. Like we'll maybe do some questions because I know some of us have to go on the panel. So we will do this for about 15 more minutes. My last question, hopefully we can all just give our opinion and then maybe take some questions. It shouldn't be too long to talk about, is how do we think the UKLC will stack up to other regions in Talia? And I don't know if Rye is still here, but I guess it'll be a lot about Resolve versus the other so-called super teams, because I know not a lot of UKLC teams have been announced, but the 3 strong teams have been announced. How do you think we're going to stack up to like the Nordics ones?
It's like Resolve, and then the one with Raya, right? And then there's Galaxy Racer. I think they're like
Yeah.
the big 3. No,
Yeah, they are.
yeah. I think overall, I think we could do really well. I mean, they've got Soft and Yusa. I think Fast Legged as well, really underrated. This guy's just come back from Supermassive for like 1 year, and I had a chat with him a couple of times when I was over in TCL, and this guy's improved immensely since his
Yeah.
time on Supermassive. So yeah, I definitely think in terms of a full UK roster, definitely some chance of a NLC promotion.
Yeah, I'm just
No,
posting each of these rosters into our Discord if you guys haven't seen them.
I really like what Resolve have done, right? Resolve seem to be one of the UK orgs that is absolutely moving in the right direction, that are getting the right backing, that are I mean, whatever reason, Rai seem to have some like, I don't know, again, like Twitter beef or whatever. Like there's people just memeing and shit on Twitter, right? Back when they were a UKL team. But I've spoken to them a few times, and they seem to really have their head screwed on about the business plan, about the actual route in which this org wants to go. And they are effectively doing academy's work right now, in my eyes, in having a position. I mean, I believe all these players are like pretty much full time, right? Probably from Resolve, they're offering like a decent kind of platform for players. I know they were building an office or a facility in which they want players to move to. How far they are down the line with that, I don't know. But this is the type of system and platform and org and a collection of everything really, in which we need more of to produce better talent. And
100%.
they're doing the work in the right way to create. And like maybe there's a better top laner they can get than Artorias. Maybe there's a better mid lane they can get Chimera. Nothing against any of these players, and maybe there is. But actually, they've gone, look, these are the players that we want to turn into better players, and maybe they go on to bigger and better things. Maybe we get promoted to the NLC and we represent the UK. But they're providing that, and I think that's really, really important. And I think that's what, as a collective, we all need to do more of.
And this is what we need more of. So if you look at Resolve, I'm a bit biased, but they've got investors in my previous boss at British Esports, Chester King, Dave Martin. Like they've got some good business savvy people on board, and they've got that funding coming through. XL got to the LEC because they were good enough and business minded enough to get funding from investors, right? If we can get more of that, Diabolus got money from investors in the past. You know, other orgs can
You
get
get this
money.
because you do it right in the first place, right? Like these investors don't just like click their fingers and just choose an org and go, okay, I'm going to throw my money at
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Because you've got the good foundations in the first place that these investors want to join you. It's really hard to convince someone to give you millions of pounds or thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
In Excel's case, in the LEC, it's millions of pounds, right? Into the tens of millions of pounds. We're talking about it's not an easy thing to get someone to give you their money like that. But if you lay the foundations right correctly, you have a clear plan, you are business savvy, you move in the right direction, you're showing promise that this is possible. And I think people didn't take enough of that from Excel when they actually made the jump from just a standard UK org like the rest of us, like the rest of the UK orgs, to that LEC jump, because that was massively unexpected. Obviously, we take it a bit for granted now that they're an LEC team, but that didn't come from nowhere. That took hard work and took the right foundations being laid, the right steps being kind of pushed in. It wasn't luck that it fell in their lap. They did the right things, and all of a sudden they get to where they need to get to. and Resolve seem to be currently on that same trajectory. Maybe not LEC, but actually putting in the right steps to get the funding, get the foundations there, all the way up from UKL. And I think they will be the first team that we've seen promote all the way from the UKL, them or possibly London, all the way from the UKL up to the NLC, and that'll be a great thing for UK
and
sports.
If they make it to NLC and then they're pigeonholed and they can't get to the LEC, or even if they do well in EU Masters, then they might go into other games where they can go up. Look at Endpoint. Have got into the ESL Pro League in CSGO. They're in the RLCS Rocket League. You know, Orgs, you can do things in other games as well and have a team in the NLC, and it's more eyeballs, isn't it? Looking at what you're doing.
While it's easy to be like negative about some of the standard of the UK stuff, I think there is some real good. Or I think the likes of Resolve, I think London have done some really great work. I think Munster will also do some really great work now in the UKL going up through. And there are some really promising potential future homes that are full-time places that people can play League of Legends in the UK. And you can be a pro playing outside of the LEC as a UK player. Just as Spanish players are in Spain, just as some German players are in Germany, you can be a professional League of Legends player playing League of Legends for these players in the coming like splits, right? And that's really important to have orgs that can provide that.
Yeah, and we need Riot to hopefully, I don't know, find whatever the magical potion is to increase the viewership or make the quality of the UK like production and all that better to the point where these investments by Resolve are like not done in vain, or by London or by Monster Rugby Gaming coming back, because they must be coming back for a reason, and it might be like for the orgs that have been in the scene longer, like it's probably quite demoralizing for them to just see the same viewership again and again and again, and some orgs putting in a lot of effort and not getting the results back. But for like, it's good to have orgs like Resolve, I guess, coming in with a lot of money, like investing it, I guess, in a good way. I'm not sure how like a 5 UK stack is gonna do when it comes to the layer part, but at this part is obviously fine, and they should just goober stomp UK. What do you think, Smeagol? Do you think the UK 5 stack will just run through the whole thing and compete for NLC or what?
I think they'll run through UKLC based off of, I mean, especially securing Sof and Yusa. I think it's actually a crime that these guys didn't end up on NLC teams, to be honest.
Yep.
Whatever their reasons. I think it's going to be a bit harder when they need to come up against the likes of Galaxy Racer and Absolved. You know, there's some really good players on their rosters like Raya. You know, this guy made it to NLC finals. You've got Energy as well, who I think is really good.
Really good.
And then you've got some other sort of more unknown players who've had a couple of appearances at EU Masters, like I don't know how to say his name. I think it's like Jakey is the Galaxy
I think
Racer.
that guy's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
I think this guy's really like underrated and not many people know him. And then you've got Monk as well. Like, I mean, a lot of people meme Monk. Alex, don't put him mid again. You know, you'll kill his career. But if you put this guy with an experienced support, I think this guy is going to be top 2 ADC.
You saw when MnM were in relegations, we had like a poor roster, I guess, but like in relegations, with our RNG came in as well, and we like giga stomped Granite, like the best team coming out of Talia Masters. Like, so even when like people think that players like Monk and stuff like that are bad because they were in like relegations, but the gap between these Talia regions and the NLC is massive, but this season I think is going to be the smallest gap that there ever will be. I thought last season there was no chance that MnM or Singularity would lose, but this season is different.
And Alex, right? That's the beauty of sports and esports. Like, look at Arsenal. We just went on a really bad run of football matches of like losing 6, 7, 8 or whatever it was in a row. And now we've just won our last 4 or 5. You know, and that's what I love about sports. You can have a good team that performs badly. You know, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but
you're right.
No, it's true.
Like, you take the good with the bad, don't you? And I think the beautiful thing about the NLC system the Nordic merger that we didn't speak about, that I don't think was done well last split by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact that the UKLC and the other Nordic regions alike, like their Div 2s, have their own mini EU Masters to play for is so cool. I really like the fact that and again, I don't think there was enough put into it. I don't think it was done right in terms of scheduling and the way it worked last split. But again, I don't think it's a bad idea just because it didn't work last split. I think the fact that they have something to play for that's not just like we won our local Div 2, but we actually couldn't promote or anything like this. Is I think the fact that they've got something to play for above actually winning gives a reason for someone like Resolve to actually put money into Resolve, right? Like we spoke about with the UK teams that are in the NLC. Perhaps there's not much reason to actually put much money into MnM or Barrage League of Legends right now or whatever, because likelihood is you're not going to get one of those EU master spots and you're not going to get any further than you have. But the UKLC teams don't have that. They don't have an academy team that's spending millions of pounds in their respective region. They can win the UKLC, go to Telia Masters, another mini tournament really good for them to play for, and they can promote into a higher league. So it feels like there's more worth putting money into that than there is even does for the NLC right now.
No, I agree completely. I can't speak for Barrage, but I know the fact that MnM's budget for the NLC has gone down is like half Corona. Like we just got unlucky with Corona in our sponsors, and half the fact that Rainbow Six is just blown up massively, and MnM have more success in Rainbow Six and Trackmania, and now WoW with a rank like World 15 team. So a lot of the resources that were more low favored are now other game favored, just purely because the UK and viewership hasn't grown. But I guess it might be the same for Barrage because they have more teams happening now. And I do agree that these UKLC teams have a lot more to play for. I think it's a lot more exciting in UKLC. The fact that you can go to Talia and you're not like region capped, or like you're capped by having two academies in your region. I think any team can make it to Talia.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeff has given me everything he feels he can. Our budget went up a bit. Yeah, that's true, actually. I didn't want to obviously mention it, but now through me said it. But I've heard that Barrage has gone up this split. So maybe they're finding more success with sponsors in this off season.
Yeah, for sure. I think there are different, like, orgs are changing, right? UK orgs are changing massively in the way they are, and I think that there's some orgs that have been around a long time that started with just like an idea in a bedroom and perhaps haven't progressed very much. And then there are some orgs that can invest now because they have backing and they don't mind losing a little bit of money before they see some kind of return from it. And those orgs are the ones that we can that can kind of go further, I guess.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now really quickly. We're going to do questions as soon as possible. So if you have a question, you've already wrote it. I didn't write it down. I lied at the start when I said I'd write it down. I didn't. Not because I don't care about you, but I just didn't. So if you have questions now, you can either at them towards me if you want me to say it to everyone, or at them towards a specific person here. I think all of them are in the chat. And we're going to look to end this stream in maybe 5 more minutes max.
I've got a question here for me from Rob the Boomer. Thanks, Rob. He said, "Do you think some of the 10 billion pounds arenas in the UK that have been proposed should have instead put some of the investment in partnering with UKLC, etc.?" Yeah, possibly. I mean, I wrote an opinion piece a week or so ago saying, "Have we got too many arenas coming? Is it a bit of a false economy, or is there going to be enough demand?" There's about 4 being planned in different places. I can't remember the locations now. I think Bristol and a few others, Dundee. They're multi-purpose arenas, so they could have a theatre as well, and they could have, but they're all targeting esports. That's what I'm hoping to do with my consultancy. If I talk to investors and talk to brands, I'm able to say, well, are you interested in a team? Well, what kind of like ethos and team sort of focus are you looking for? And then I'll say, oh, well, this team might be good for you, or that team. But of course, if they're not interested in League of Legends, I can only advise them in what they want to do. But hopefully we'll see more of that in the future.
Can esports arenas not be interested in League of Legends though? Like, it's like football stadiums not being interested in football almost, right? Like, it feels. I mean, of course, it's not exactly like that, but League of Legends globally is a huge esport, right? Maybe it's not here in the UK, but that's not a reason to not put stuff into it. I think rather than get involved in directly in teams or in set teams, that these type of arenas, do what we were saying earlier, right? Like, create either an affiliation with a local team, right? So like, I don't know, there is a team from Bristol. They actually can play. They can invite another UKL team down, and they play their UKL game at the arena. And maybe it's fun if they can invest 10 billion or whatever it is into an arena. They can invest like 500 quid in getting 5 players to the arena to play the game, right?
Yeah.
And imagine having a UKLC like finals at one of those arenas. This used to happen at Insomnia. Insomnia used to host what was then the ESL Premiership finals all the time, and it was better. You know what I mean? And it did create this personal link with the players and the teams, and that's what we need more of.
I do believe that like if these esports arenas posted up, like got involved with Riot, say we want to do some League of Legends events. If they hosted like one match in a split or a random match at their esport arena anywhere in the country, and they got it like advertised, they will 100% fill up a an arena of maybe like 300 plus. I think anyway would be
The
my
best
guess.
example is the UKLC finals that were the last UKLC finals that were between Fnatic and XL that XL hosted at Twickenham. Right, I went to that. It was outright full. I don't. There's like 700 seats or something. It was outright full. I can't remember how many seats there were exactly.
Yeah.
Someone may say you're wrong, but there was several hundred seats.
Yeah,
they were all full, and I didn't know most of the people there.
Yeah.
And I've been in the scene like forever. There was lots of fans of League of Legends, maybe of XL, maybe of Fnatic, but that proved that they would pay for tickets or get tickets. They would go to these places like that and watch games, and that could happen between all different teams in the UK in all different leagues. And I think you would get people that like League of Legends. That obviously, if it's a lower tier, like maybe not paying or paying like a quid or something to get a ticket to go and take your seat, it's not costing the arena or anything to fill it up, right? And they're getting exposure. So go fill up these places, get as many games as we can offline, and create a little bit more something personal about what we do. Obviously, the awkwardness comes in when you're flying 5 different players in from all over Europe to play one game and then fly back again, and having to get hotels or whatever. That's a bit more awkward. But to be honest, UKLC and UKL, most of the players are English. Like there are some others, but most of the players are from the UK. So that why can't we could have multiple games in splits from different teams have appearances at Belong arenas, like places like Pixel Bar in Leeds, and there's like Wan Yu in London. There's lots of different bars and things that we could get involved in the scene more, and they all have League of Legends. They all show LECs. They all show different League of Legends events. They can all do more to contribute, and we can get them involved more in the UK scene.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree. I think anything that's in the south or London, I would go to because it's like close, and I think Belong Arenas is a good example. I'll do like 2-3 questions that I've seen. First one, I'll start with you, Dom, in case you do have to go. It's from Megalodontus, who you might know a little bit, may have worked with once or twice, and he said, "How much do sponsors care about UK teams being UK brands? Are they more likely to invest in orgs long term if they know an org has a history of consistently promoting starting UK players?"
It's hard to say because we haven't had many like investors come in, right? It's only a small handful of organizations that have got the investors. In terms of brands, there has been a few deals over the years, but I don't personally know what level those deals were. I mean, I believe some of them may have helped pay for, the player salaries, but it doesn't seem to be, there's not a huge deal of interest, is there? Really, a lot of the early days of UK League, a lot of it was sort of like affiliate deals and little bits and pieces like that. Or there was even instances where orgs had websites where they'd put brand logos on saying they're the sponsors, and those companies weren't sponsors.
What's the question?
Do sponsors care more about teams being UK brands, or do they care more about the team like promoting UK players? Do they care about like if like a team says they're from the UK but they have no UK players, or do they care more about them having UK players?
Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, I misinterpreted the question. I don't know, to be honest. I don't think brands want. It depends on the brand what they want. They usually want
brand
to
specific,
reach. Yeah, and they want engagement. If there's a brand that's a UK brand, do you remember like there was that thing on? I'm probably showing my boomer age, but there was like a butter company that was going on about its British heritage and everything. If there's a brand like that they might be interested, but it really depends on the company, I guess.
I can speak about the Omen deal that XL did when they got the Omen house. So that's one of the I guess the bigger upscaled ones outside of like LEC, and obviously was huge at the time for the UK scene. That for XL didn't have anything bigger than what they currently had. They were prior to that deal, they were no bigger than any other UK team, right? They had no sponsors. They didn't have a house. They didn't really pay salaries. It was all voluntary. You got a bit of prize pool, whatever. They got that deal. What Omen cared about was that they had a UK base, right? And they had an Omen house there, and they could they could personalize, because all the players could be brought to one central location. Then you could reach out to stuff like Belong and do deals with Belong. Then you could reach out to local brands and do things with local brands because you could get the players to that location. So again, it comes right down to like personalizing esports, right? And not just having a name of an IGN behind a screen. Actually, because off the back of the Omen deal, XL could reach out to Belong and get 5 players there and their coach and say, this is what professional esports looks like. But you can't do that when there's 5 players all over Europe and they're in different places and not in one location.
Yeah.
So centralizing the team was the purpose of that deal, which then extended to other deals, which kind of
That's good. I
continued the
didn't do
upward
that.
trajectory.
But I'm glad that Excel managed to do something like that, because obviously now they're definitely the forefront in promoting UK League of Legends, and Nova, their social media manager, probably is probably worth way more than whatever that guy's paid for Excel and Excel branding. He somehow has managed to smash Excel branding and UK branding specifically.
Sure, it
So
gets played a lot now.
yeah, he probably does. If you're a UK org and you actually like think like what can we post as a UK org, then I would definitely go check out Excel's Twitter, because I think he's really done it well. We're gonna
Shout out to
yeah, go on.
Nova, aka Radiant, aka Nathan. I've just done a podcast with him, the Boomer and the Zoomer. If anyone's interested on the ENUK YouTube, that was fun to do. Yeah, he's a great guy, Nathan. I think Excel are a model example, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, I think he's
They
really
need
hit the nail on the head with what to post and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna end it here, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. If you have any more questions, I guess you can just like DM them on Twitter. My DMs are open, or DM any of these guys. You can see their
Yeah.
ats underneath their pictures, but I'll give you guys a little chance to do an outro. We can start with you, Fern. Say thanks and stuff.
Just thank you for having me, and thank you for just allowing me to talk a lot, because it's a subject I'm super passionate about.
Yep.
In my new role, I'm going to be not tied to a team, so I can speak more outwardly about this and work on a more kind of collective basis with lots of different people, give lots of people advice. I've been in this thing a long time, so if anyone wants any of that, how they can grow, how they can develop, either as a player, as an org, stuff I've worked with, I can talk from my experience at least.
Yeah.
And in my new role, I hope to pick up some really talented UK players that I can help push onto bigger and better things.
That's fantastic. Dom?
Just out of interest, when's that being announced, Fern?
This week.
Right. Okay.
I'm just finishing off some official stuff, and I'll announce my exact new role.
Yeah, thanks a lot for asking me on, Alex. I look forward to more UK talk shows in the future, and I'm really excited to be taking Esports News UK full time. I'll do my best to cover the scene. If I've missed something, just drop me a DM. My DMs are always open on Twitter, and I look forward to seeing, the developments this year in UK League, Esports and beyond.
Yeah. Smeagol?
Overall, yeah, just thanks for having me. Similar to Josh, I'm super passionate about, even though the UK is a bit of a mess, like I just want to see it grow and make UK great again, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it never really was great, was it? But we want it to get there at some point.
Yeah, that's what we're all here for.
But yeah, if anyone has any questions, players upcoming or current, just slide into my DMs and I'll try to help you in whatever way I can. Even though I'm not working in UK anymore and I'm working, 11,000 miles away or whatever, I'm still interested in the region. I still want it to succeed. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for being on, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. These sorts of things get a lot of support, so obviously I really appreciate you guys all tuning in. I will maybe try and do another one of these before the season starts, but I can't promise anything. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. See you soon. Stay safe.